There. Confirming visual contact with USG Ishimura.
What a beauty.
The Dead Space remake doesn't care if you require downtime between tension. What EA has put together here is a technical marvel and a game made by fans for fans. They have taken all the main points of the original Dead Space and have only added to what is a visual horror masterpiece. To recap, if you haven't played the original, you are Isaac Clarke, an engineer hired with a small team to find out what is happening to the USG Ishimura, which is a ship that sits above a mining planet. It picks up precious metals. As well as Isaac's girlfriend working on board the ship in medical, his personal goal is finding her. However, what your team uncover is something out of H.P. Lovecraft with a deep conspiracy and a cult to boot. The story is interesting, and this time round they have a fully voiced main character, which only adds to the world building. The Ishimura isn't chopped into chapters anymore like the original. You can explore the ship at will. As you go through the game, seamless integration of these areas makes the mining vessel even more well realized. The ship isn't exactly a pretty thing, so even before the horrors that happened on board, it's a scary place to work and be. The crux of what made Dead Space so frightening is, yes, its setting, but what Glenn Schofield and his team put together in the original was an alien infection that takes such a heavy toll on the human body, you are confronted with living nightmares of human contortion of what once was a person. They are called necromorphs, coming in all sorts of shapes and sizes and all equally terrifying. Now, the only way to put these enemies down is destroying everything but the body, cutting off legs, arms, and heads. In 2008 Dead Space, this was amazing to look at, and a technical marvel for the time. In 2023, the violence is ramped up to the extreme. Layers of flesh need to be either cut through, blown off, burned, melted away, or pinned to the wall so it can't escape. Encounters happen quickly, and fight or flight is always a response. Act accordingly to survive, as you will die fast. Now, everything in the original game was great, so to update the visuals is one thing, but modernizing the controls and the environments to make everything more seamless is exactly what I wanted from the Dead Space remake, and it's what I got right the way to the end. The only direct comparison you can make that will be argued over is the sound design. Some things in the original I like the sound of more. The hanging wall enemies that throw little sacks of meat that shoot bone fragments at you had a much more horrifying sound, as they were still alive and conscious of their mutations, when they were yelling and screaming during combat. It was deeply unsettling for my 13-year-old self. However, in the remake, sound is extremely dynamic, such as lines of dialogue having been recorded differently, depending on Isaac's state of health, sounding out of breath and staggering his words when he is close to death. Ambience isn't just ambience in this game. There is things crawling around in the dark waiting to ambush you, and I never felt safe. There are a few moments that tension is released in the game, and I had to take breaks every couple of hours, which is the only time I can say that is a good thing. The only criticism of the game is the RNG. If you decide to use one weapon for the whole game, pickups will be credits and ammo for that one weapon. If you use every weapon in the game, ammo will be spread between everything, and you'll be constantly swapping out weapons as if you get the same amount of ammo but spread between a small arsenal, getting lots of ammo for weapons you may not like or use. You can honestly play through the whole game using the starting weapon, as once fully upgraded it becomes a magnum, blowing off arms and legs easily. However, one weapon that got a massive buff, unlike the original, that I saw myself using heaps, was the flamethrower. Originally it was entirely useless, but here it's great for crowd control, and it's a visual treat to watch skin melt away and enemies scream in pain. Look, at the beginning of the game I found myself with a scarcity mindset, and by the end I felt like John Rambo. That's not entirely a bad thing. I think they ramped the difficulty up high enough where you want to feel powerful to overcome what's being thrown at you. There's a lot of action in here, but at no time does it feel like something out of Resident Evil 6 apart from the last boss. The different suits and upgrade paths are deep, and you can really set up builds differently depending on your playstyle. My favourite weapon, the Force Gun, shoots an area of gravity that tears the flesh right off the bones of enemies. When fully upgraded, I felt like a juggernaut. So much is going on with the Dead Space remake, and I felt like how I wrote the review was sort of the same. It is a lot of replay value, and with the impossible mode being for speedrunners and psychopaths, a new game plus as well. Playing through 3 times now, I look forward to trying to overcome the game in one life in impossible mode. I highly recommend the Dead Space remake to not only horror fans but gamers alike. Thank you very much for watching, and subscribe for more.